What's up, sports freaks, and welcome to All Sports Media Team presents Drbl, episode number 44. We six away from 50. It's absolutely crazy. Today, our title is entitled From Behind Bars to Behind the Mic. And this man over here to my left, your right, has one of the coolest and craziest stories that I've ever heard in my entire life. You might have caught him on the Kelly Clarkson show last week. The title says it all. The guy was in jail for a long, long time for reasons that just life happens and you do things you regret sometimes. But God has his reasons for it, and it made him the man who he is today. I got Mr. Voice of the BBL himself. This guy got to live his dream. Aaron Showtime Taylor. Dude, what's up, Showtime?
Was crackling, man. You got to forgive me. I'm outside in the backyard and I'm in the LAX flight pattern, so you might hear a plane every now and then.
It's all good, man. I live on Norwalk Boulevard. We got cars going like crazy. It's all good in this hood. Sweet, dude. And what people don't know is you reached out to me, which I thought was pretty freaking cool, dude. You're the first to do that, and I respect the hell out of you for that. And I respect the hell out of you. Like the first time I heard you at the BBL, which we'll talk about later, but your talent is unprecedented, man. It's coming from someone who wants to go into PA announcing. Like I was just I was supposed to be watching the game. I was watching the game and I'm listening to all the cool stuff that you came up with, and I can't wait to ask you about that. So, but Showtime, what we normally do at the beginning, me and my panel usually will ask for a little BG, just a little bit of background. I know you have probably the craziest story we've ever heard in a good way, and I know it's going to change somebody's life when they watch the show. Um,
Hopefully.
yeah, oh, most definitely. I can almost guarantee. I know personally someone it will touch. So I'll give you the floor wherever you want to start to pretty much to now, and then we'll bounce off of each other and we'll have some fun, man. Let's do it.
Well, some background on the sports broadcasting part of it, and then we'll leave the other part for you to walk us
Whatever you
through.
want, brother.
So, it used to
Whatever
be
you.
it's the park in Culver City. They call it Palms Park now, but back in the 80s, it used to be called Overland Park. And I had a friend named Cordy Dillard. We're still friends, but Cordy led the Crenshaw Cougars to the city championship in 79-80 season,
Okay.
right, as the starting point guard. And he and I were pretty tight. And we used to go up to Overland and play basketball, me, him, my brother, and some of our friends. And one day I caught a ride up to the park with him, didn't take my own car. And I went up for a rebound and I came down and twisted my ankle.
Oh
And
no.
so I had to sit at the park because he wasn't ready to leave because my ankle was hurt. He came to get his run in, right? So I remember limping over to the bleachers, and we used to bring the Cambros up there, the coolers, and everybody pitch in and get some Coronas or whatever. So I grabbed a Corona. I got up on the bleachers. It's quiet, nothing but basketball, the ball bouncing, and people talking crap and stuff like that. And I'm sitting there looking, and I just out of nowhere just decided, you know what? Let me imitate Chick Hearn right now,
Oh,
right? The late great voice of the Lakers.
oh, I love
And
him.
I started doing it, and people that was sitting there waiting, who had the next two games, they're sitting there listening, they're laughing, their girls are laughing, but it sucked. I'm telling you right now, it sucked big time, right? But that was the first time I tried to, attempt to do play-by-play.
Mhm.
A couple of years later, there was the Crenshaw High alumni basketball game,
Okay.
and well, it was a series, right, a tournament. So you had players from the 70s, 80s, and the early 90s all playing in this tournament. And me and Cordy again was DJing, and Cordy was playing in the game. And so when the finals came up, the final game was being played about 7 o'clock. And
Okay.
I got on the mic and I tried to do play-by-play again, but Willie West, the coach of the Crenshaw Cougars, came over to me and turned the mic off. He said, "Don't do that, son. Don't do that."
Yeah, they always
And
do.
so, well, it was a lesson that I learned later because I went back and talked to the coach about it. And he said, "Listen, if you're going to do something like that, you have to be serious about it.
Okay.
You can't get on there and be shooting jokes and having people laughing when the
Yeah.
guys on the court, because they could hear me too, and it was
Mhm.
taking away. It was a distraction from the game." And so this was in 1991. In
Okay.
1994, I end up going to jail for the attempted furniture store robbery. I
Mhm.
get shot in the face in that attempted robbery, and
Wow.
I get arrested and I go to jail. And while I'm in the LA County jail fighting my case, um, you know, they had basketball runs up on the roof. That's where the recreation yard was. And so since I couldn't play because I had a wound on my finger, I stood on the sideline and I started imitating Chick Hearn again. Except this time I remember what Wes said. So I took it a little bit more serious, but I wasn't really experienced yet. But it did sound pretty good. It sounded better than I had a couple of years earlier. And I had a captive audience. You know, all of us are in jail. So it got to the point where whenever we had recreation time, they would start yelling, "Hey, Chick Hearn, you coming to the roof today? You know, I got some sodas, I got some soups for you, you know." And so when I got my sentence, I got 50 years to life.
Wow.
I had 2 counts. I had an attempted robbery at a furniture store, and I had an assault with a deadly weapon on a lock and key shop that I attempted to rob a few days before then. And so when I landed on a maximum security prison yard right here in Lancaster, and I was depressed. And a cat I knew from the county jail, you know, he saw me. He's like, "Man, you all right?"
It's all right. Just let me unmute you real quick.
And so
there you go.
he comes over and he tells me, "Man, you know, they're playing basketball out on the yard. They got some real good ballers out there." And so I went out, I seen them. I stood up underneath the basketball pole because it's a half court, you know, blacks playing on one side and everybody else is playing on the. Well, let me rephrase that. At Lancaster, if you had game, you played on the black side of the court. Right? It didn't matter what race. Didn't matter what race you was back then. This is like 97, 98, 99, 2000. If you had game, you played on the end where I was at. If you didn't have game, you played on the other end. Right. And so I started there. And back then I used to give guys NBA nicknames. You know, if you played like somebody that was in the NBA, you know, in the late 80s, in the late 90s, early 2000s, I give you that person's name. And back then I was so good, I got so good to where I could keep personal stats on one person from each team. Shot attempt, shot made, 2-point attempt, 2-pointer made, fouls, steals on each team, one person on each team, while I'm calling the play-by-play.
Wow.
Right. And I'm throwing in one-liner jokes.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's when I really just had it was more than just a captive audience. It was, I went into the cell and I would watch the games that would come on because I think it was the NBA on NBC back then. Right. And, you know, you got Jordan still in the league, you know what I'm saying? He hadn't left yet. And you had that whole second three-peat going on. And so I would, that's the first time I turned the volume down on my television and just started doing play-by-play for the Laker games that used to come on KCAL 9 back in the day. Right. And so I'm doing play-by-play. I leave from there after 4 years. I go to High Desert State Prison up in Northern California. We were on lockdown the majority of the time, but there was 1 week we had where I was able to do play-by-play for a Oakland legend named Matt Brown. He went to Western Kentucky and got kicked out after his first year. He caught a case and he ended up going to jail. Right. Matter of fact, he's a friend of Gary Payton's. So I had a chance to do play-by-play for him on the yard before we shut down again. Then I left from there in 2002 and went to Calipatria State Prison. And when I get to Calipatria State Prison, you get the convergence of me starting to really get deep into my spiritual teachings. And I'm also doing play-by-play for, it was about 20 guys that was there that played ball on some level from high school all the way up to semi-pro. Right. And they were really good, but we get the convergence. So I'm only going out once a week there. And I'm also studying up on my spiritual stuff. When I leave Calipatria State Prison, I go to Centinela State Prison, which is a lower security facility. When I get there, that's when I create 2 sports leagues, a softball league and a basketball league.
That's cool.
Right. And on the basketball league, I made a promise to the guys. I said, listen, if you play this, if you get involved in this league, right, I'm going to do play-by-play because we play 3 games a day, 5 days a week. First to 19 wins. Right. And I literally sat out there 5 days a week, 3 games a day. And that's when I hired statisticians, 1 statistician for each team. I hired referees. I hired a scorekeeper. And I also had a newspaper that I created called The Show, a newsletter that highlighted plays on the field and on the court. And so I hired a writer for that as well, because I did most of the writing, but I couldn't write the basketball because I'm doing the play-by-play for it. So I hired a writer to take care of that. The leagues were so good and it was so popular that you would have guards come up out of their gun towers to come over to the area where the basketball court is. You would have staff come out after work that should have been going home at 2:00 that was coming around the basketball court.
Yeah.
You would have people from the administrative office coming over to the basketball court. And you had the captain and the warden, the captain of the yard, and then the warden was coming over, right? And they're listening to the play-by-play, and it's like 6 people deep all around the court.
That's cool.
Right. And so after that, I spent a year at Soledad, and then I went to San Quentin. And when I got to San Quentin, that's when, I found out that the Warriors were coming up there. And like I said, I didn't believe it when I first heard it. Oh, man, you guys are full of it. Man, ain't no damn NBA team coming into a prison to play no basketball. You know what I'm saying? But I actually met Draymond Green in his rookie season. He came up there with Coach Jackson.
Okay.
He brought the coaching staff with him, and Draymond sat on first he was sitting on the bench, then he went over and played dominoes. And later on, we found out from Draymond, he said, listen, man, I got uncles that's been to prison. You know what I'm saying? I'm not new to this. So he jumped on the domino table and was playing chess. And, he later on told me, it wasn't that year. It was in 2017 when he came back with Durant.
Okay.
And he stayed on the domino table the whole time. And somebody asked him, why you not watching the game? He said, I don't have to watch the game. I can hear that dude over there on the mic telling me everything that's going on. I know who's winning, who's doing what. If I hear ooh and ah, I can turn around and catch it back in that. And so the experience with the San Quentin Warriors and the Golden State Warriors got me to dream it bigger than I normally had. Having the organizational skills to set up the league on the level 3 where I was at with the CBL, that was the name of the league. And then going to San Quentin and taking those same organizational skills and setting up statisticians and then getting the audio equipment, and then getting people to move pieces of the stage and stuff like that. All of that came together when I got out.
Okay.
So now it's time to put all of that stuff I did for 26 years into action. And
absolutely.
I thought I wasn't going to, if my plans, it was to get to the NBA in 3 to 5 years and to call an NBA final series in 7 years. I had no idea that I would be sitting in the Chase Center in 6 months.
That was awesome. I watched that. That was amazing.
No idea, man. I still go and look at my parole plans. I'm like, what happened?
It's crazy. Like, how did this come to be? Before we jump into that, Showtime. First off, you guys, this shows that even in prison, one person can make things happen. I mean, you wore so many different hats. You were technically like a GM. You were, the advisor for the entire arena. You put the teams together. You weren't just doing the voices. And then for doing the voices, I did the same thing when I was younger. My video games, I'd be playing and I would announce them and I would annoy my brother like crazy, stuff like that. But for us, that's practice. That's pushing our way towards our dream, and sometimes you just catch yourself doing it sometimes at like Little League games or, you're watching a Dodger game or an Angel game or whatever, or Laker game. You're just, like you said, you turn off the TV and you just go for it. And, before we jump into your next part of your journey, I've had the privilege of being able to hear you numerous times. And like I said, it's always entertaining. And I agree with what Draymond said. Like, I could go down the way and I could still hear you on the speaker. Okay, so-and-so still winning. I don't need to go check on it, So that's freaking cool. To backtrack just a smidge, do you think your environment is the one that drove you to do that robbery? Were you in a gang or were you forced to do it, or was it just like a sporadic thing?
Well, that particular robbery, I was getting money for rent.
Okay. So you had reasoning behind it, I mean, I don't condone any type of robbery, but there's a lot of people out there that's why they're doing it, to feed their families and stuff. So.
Well, no, let's back up. Let's back up. Let's deal with full accountability and responsibility. I shouldn't have had a gun because I went to jail in the 80s for robberies, right? And the robberies I committed when I was a kid were directly behind drugs, right? And so one, I was an ex-felon, so I wasn't supposed to be in possession of a weapon. That's off the top. right? Number two, it's never right to take something from somebody that it doesn't belong to you, right? Number three, in the process of going in to commit both of the robberies that the assault with the deadly weapon came from a robbery attempt, and then the one where I got shot at. In both of those cases, I went in and fooled or tried to trick the people involved to think that I came in to do legitimate business with them, right? So there's elements of the crime that come about, right, that I have to take personal accountability and responsibility for, or else I'm just sitting here saying, you know, I shouldn't have robbed nobody because it's not right to rob nobody. No. One of the things I learned inside of the self-help groups inside of prison was the element of breaking down a crime, right? And one of the first things that go into it, in my mind, it's a business. I got business to take care of, and you guys are just part of this business that I'm trying to do. But what I had to learn to do was step outside myself and look, I just took a human being and turned them into a thing, not a person, right? And in that thingification, as we called it, you're just part of the business that I came in here to do. Anything that happens to you isn't personal, because to me, this is impersonal when I'm doing this. And if you don't do what I tell you to do, right, then the thing is in my way and it's time for me to remove it. And again, like I said, to start this off, one has to take full personal accountability, full responsibility, right? And it leads me to say, and I know you're going to go someplace else, so I'm going to drop this in, though. This is what led me to say that I also want to be a voice for the survivors and the victims of crimes as well. As well as for my brothers and sisters in blue, who I know want to say they're sorry. The same on the other side, those people didn't ask for these things to happen to them. And so I need to be a voice for them as well. So people get the opportunity to say, why me? And get an answer. You know, but yeah, it's about personal accountability. When I grew up, I didn't really start getting actively in the gangs until I was late 15, early 16. In the neighborhood where I grew up at, over here in the Jefferson Park area in Los Angeles, right? The environment I grew up in, if you're familiar with, if anybody in the audience is familiar with the Jefferson and Western area in Los Angeles, back when the old original Fat Burger was there, you know, it used to be a lot of dope fiends over there, a lot of heroin addicts. You know, I've had heroin addicts in my family. I never personally used it, but I did grow up around a lot of drug use and whatnot. I personally started smoking weed when I was 12 or 13 years old. And then when I started working as a plumber, when I graduated high school at 16, that's when I graduated from weed to freebase and rock cocaine, right? Before crack, when it was, you know, you had to have money to use cocaine back then. And I was young and had enough money to do it. And when I got fired from my job as a plumber, right, then I started robbing people to pay for that habit, right? And that's how I went to jail the first time. So it's part of an environment, right? It's part of how I was raised, you know, but in the end, there was a whole lot of people that grew up like I grew up that didn't make the same decisions that I made, you know, that could have joined a gang and didn't, that could have chose to use weed or cocaine and didn't. And so it goes back to me saying I have to take full accountability and full responsibility. No matter how I grew up, I'm still responsible for the choices I made. I just happened to make bad choices back then.
And you're not the only one. I mean, and I love the breakdown you just made, because, you know, there's going to be that teenager that watches this and they're thinking about going to rob, even just like a 7-Eleven or something. And then they think about what you just said. And then hopefully they'd be like, okay, well, this is actually a human being. I'm not going to go in and do this. I'm going to try and do a side job for someone or something like that. But it's sad what you're saying. I mean, these areas are all over the place, you know, LA, New York, Chicago, you know, even just in the middle down here in Norwalk, you know, there's gangs all over, not just gangs, just families, like you said. You got families rolling up freaking, you know, cocaine and making methamphetamine, whatever. You never know. You never know what people are going through mentally, stuff like that as well. That also can make a big toll on whatever it is. And then, like you said, also you're trying to make money. Some people do it to feed their family, you know, they put their life on the line to feed their babies, you know, but they go about it in the wrong way, which is what you just explained, and I appreciate that for that. I also wanted to ask, so how many total prisons were you in? It was 20, 26 years you were incarcerated?
And 26 years. Okay, so it was Lancaster, High Desert, Calipatria, Centinela, Soledad, and Quinton 6.
Okay, so
And
six.
each one, the first three were all level fours. These are maximum securities,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um,
And what is that?
Sentinel,
What does that mean completely? I mean, I can understand what it is, but can you let our listeners know what
so
that means?
on a maximum security prison in California Departments of Corrections and Rehabilitation means that the majority of the people there at the time when I was there had something to life,
Okay.
right? And it meant that basically your outdoor program ended right around 2:30.
Oh wow.
So you may get morning yard and then you go back for count, and then you may get afternoon yard, and then after that, the next time you come out of the cell officially would be to go to dinner to the chow hall and come back. There's no seeing no night sky. You know, the way the prison is set up in between the buildings on the level 4, there's like concrete, right, that goes up maybe 16, 17 feet. So the only thing you get to see in your life while you're on this yard is that yard.
Wow.
Now you may get to see people come from the administration building, you know what I'm saying, if you
Mhm.
happen to be out and they walk in, but you don't get to see like the parking lot of the prison and out beyond to maybe a field or something like that. All you get to
Mhm.
see is what's on that yard. And on a level 4 prison, at least back then, they were pretty violent in the sense that there wasn't a bunch of fist fighting. You know, people get into a
Mhm.
disagreement and you start fist fighting. No, if on a level 4, it was more like if it's not worth killing somebody about, you left it alone.
Wow.
There's no really no going into any fighting because everybody in there is doing life,
Yep.
you know. And so if it's not serious enough to want to, end somebody's existence, then you leave it alone, right? And then you have also a political structure inside as well, where it's based on city or neighborhood and region, and then it's based on race as well, right? And as long as the politics and people adhere to the politics, you usually have peace, usually, right?
Yeah.
Uh, but things do happen because it's prison, right? Uh, so that was uh, right here in Lancaster, CSP, and then High Desert State Prison, and then Calipatria State Prison, right? Those were all level 4s. When you get to the level 3, now you don't have that 16-foot wall in between the buildings.
Okay.
You have a chain link fence. Now you can see the parking lot. You can see people coming and going as they
Yeah.
walk by
It's
out
like
of the
a whole
prison.
different mental stability. It's a whole
Right.
different game.
You get to come out and stay out at night. I remember the first time I got to Sentinel State Prison, um, and I told the guys before I left Calipatria that the first time I had the opportunity, I was going to go outside and pray at night for them because they couldn't get out at night. And so I remember taking my prayer rug out there, finding me a spot on the corner on the yard, and doing my prayer and thinking about them. I remember crying because I know that a lot of them wanted to get where I got to, but they couldn't. And the only way that you can get here is by good behavior. And that's when your points drop down
Yeah.
and then your security level drops down. And so I was at Centinela, and then my points went down from a level 3 to a level 2. And so I went to CTF Soledad, California Correctional Training Facility in Soledad, and I was there 11 months.
Okay.
And then they had a realignment, which sent me to San Quentin,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's how I ended up there. And
Yeah.
at San Quentin, it was more, the atmosphere was way more relaxed, and there were no politics or nothing like that there. There was no racial divisions and stuff like that. It was there, but it was
Yeah.
minuscule.
Minimal.
Because you have the sports leagues there. Now, I not only call basketball games, but I call baseball games, basketball, tennis, handball, all of that.
Yeah.
And so when you get here, there's a lot of guys like me that was coming from a structured environment, politically to get to San Quentin.
Mm-hmm.
And you're looking around and you're watching interracial basketball, interracial
Crazy, right?
baseball, interracial football,
Mm-hmm.
and you like, man, they having fun.
Right? You're like, it's a whole different
That's
world, you know?
the first thought. I'm like, man, these dudes is having fun, man. I
Mm-hmm.
got to get involved in this because everybody's playing sports. And then what makes it even more interesting is every Saturday, right, there's a hill that you have to come down to get to the lower yard at San Quentin.
Okay.
And every Saturday, there's teams coming down the hill with people from outside coming into play.
Cool.
So you have 18 team rotation that comes in and play the San Quentin A's or the Giants, right? You have at one point we had 10 teams coming down to play San Quentin's all-Mad flag football team.
That's cool.
And then you have a 4 to 6 game rotation that's playing against the San Quentin Warriors, and they're coming in every week. And you, as a person now, if I'm not doing play-by-play, which I wasn't in the beginning, I was just watching the first 2 weeks. I'm watching them come in and I'm watching the interaction. I'm like, man, this is cool as fuck.
Right, seriously.
Because I'm like, I never seen that before. You dream about it, you hear about it in prison about people coming in. And we did have a softball team come to the level 3 at Centinela where I was at. We were programming so well that the captain called a team and brought them in, and we had a home run derby in there. But a weekly thing, like at San Quentin, that's weekly that this takes place. The only reason it's not happening now is because of COVID.
Something to look forward to,
Yeah, so those were the 6 prisons I was at, and like I said, they break down on security level.
No, that's so awesome. Yeah, because you always see, I was going to throw this out here, but the fact that you explained how a point structure works and stuff, you see shows like Orange is the New Black and like other prison type shows, and they over Hollywood it. But like to an extent, some of those things are true. The point structure that you talked about, you get like, demerits, or you get, what you said, you get you subtract it and you get to go to a lower level prison. So that's crazy, but in a cool way. I love and then you ended up in San Quentin where you met the Warriors, which is where we're going to, work our way to right now. So you never know what's going to happen, right? Showtime, you never know where you're going to go. Okay, so you're in San Quentin, you're doing the A's, Giants, you're doing the Warriors games. You said we left off when Draymond was talking. What is some big things that happened after that? Like let's go to where you actually got out. You're out of prison now. What was your first step? What was the first thing you jumped into? Like, was it BBL? Was it your show Elevated Entertainment? Like, what was your first goal when you got out? Besides the NBA thing you talked about.
No, my first goal when I got out, right? This is an adult show, right?
You're good. Supposed to get some.
So after 26 years, I had already told everybody on the tier, right? I had enough money. I said, look, because I knew I had to go to a motel to quarantine for 2 weeks. That was the rule in LA back then. This is October 2020. So I already told everybody, look, man, I got enough money. I'm finna lock up with 2 women for the weekend, and then I'm gonna start, doing my emails and stuff to get in contact with the people from the Warriors and everybody else in the basketball program, right?
Okay,
but
I hear you.
When we pull up to the motel and they check me in and everything, and they take me to my room, they said, now you see the office is right here for the people that's running the motel. And if they see you try to sneak somebody in, they're going to make a call to Project LA, and they're going to cancel your funding, right? And if they cancel your funding, then we're going to have to come back and pick you up and take you back to San Quentin. And I'm like, wait a minute.
Buzzkill, man, you're killing me. I hear you. You're probably not the only one who tries that or thought that. I totally get it. Okay.
So what happens is Austin Saldner, who used to come in and play with the green team under Bill Epling, is a friend of Nick Anderson, right? So Austin tells Nick, he says, man, you got to watch this movie Cue Ball, because Cue Ball was filmed in 2018.
Love Nick. Right. Okay, go on.
And so he tells Nick, watch Cue Ball and check this guy out that's doing the play-by-play. So Nick watched the movie. He's like, yeah, that guy might fit into what we're doing. So we fast forward to 2020. Okay. And I have Nick's email address. And so I email him, and it took him about 8 days to get back to me. But it was 2 days before I got ready to come out of quarantine, and he calls me up. He says, Showtime, what's happening, man? I said, who is this? He said, this is Nick from the VPL. I'm like, man, what's crack-a-late, man? What's happening? And he said, man, he said, you ready to call some basketball games? Hell yeah.
You almost had me twice.
He said, man, we want you to come call games for the VBL, man. I saw the movie. I talked to Austin, man. We're really interested in having you come out. And so I came here to the transitional home where I'm at now. And so Nick calls me up again, and he says, look, man, we're about to do a documentary for this 2020 season, and we want to incorporate you into it. And so the first day I go to Dotweiler Beach to call a game, I'm also being filmed as I'm walking up the driveway. And that's that episode 1 of VBL 2020, and the cameraman rides with us, and, we're going through an interview, and think it was about 4 or 5 days later, I see it on YouTube, and I'm smiling. I'm like, you know, I knew this. I knew it was a first step,
Mm-hmm.
right? I didn't realize how this was going to go though, you
Mm-hmm.
know, because being with the VBL, it was special, man. It was something I was actually used to, but it was a new environment at the same time. So I had my sizzle reel from Heist Projects, a 2.5 minute piece that's on YouTube as well,
Mm-hmm.
where it's the highlights from cue ball. So when I go to the court and I'm introducing myself to the players, they looking at me like, who is this dude? So I just handed my phone, look at this, right? And they look at me like, oh man, this dude really said, you ready to do that? I'm like, yeah, except I'm
Yep,
going to be going to the camera. So whatever you do, know that I'm on the camera with
that's
you. And
right.
so after that, in that first game, um, Everybody Hates Chris Staples was there.
Okay. Okay.
And I remember speaking to him before the game, and somebody came to me and said, "Man, that dude is a world champion
Yeah.
dunker." And I
Mm-hmm.
said, "Okay, well, we're gonna see what's going on." And in the raw footage, oh, I got him a few times, man. He was doing some, I mean, just
Yeah, he's pretty good. Yeah.
amazing dunks that I hadn't seen in person before. I've seen some guys in prison who could do some dunks, but not like Chris. Not like him. No, not in live game action where you're doing reverse 360
360. Mm-hmm.
tomahawk dunks. You know, literally reverse 360 and then turn around and tomahawk it to get it in. And you
Mm-hmm.
know, it was just good being there. And I think I said it on that first episode, man. I'm free. I'm doing what I love to do. I'm making a little money for it. You know what I'm saying? I'm meeting people. This is what I do, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And so after the VPL season was over with, I go to Slauson Swap Meet to make some T-shirts for my company, Elevated Entertainment.
Okay, entertainment.
While
Yeah.
I'm in there, Kevin Daly of ABAPrime.net, the
Shut up.
American Basketball Association, walked in to get some shirts made, some jerseys made.
That's crazy.
Right now, I was talking to somebody on the phone, and they asked me about ATL Harry Smith from the movie, right? And I said, yeah, I just spoke to him. He's down in Atlanta. Kevin hears it, and when I get off the phone, he says, "Hey man, you know ATL?" I said, "Yeah, man, that's my boy, man." Right? He said, "Who are you?" "I'm Aaron Showtime Taylor." He said, "Wait, you the voice on Cue
Yeah.
Ball?" He was like, "Man, I've been trying to catch up to ATL, man, because I want to pay him to come play in the ABA." I said, "Hold up." And I called him up
Oh,
through Messenger, right? And then handed Kevin the phone, right?
uh-huh.
And he's talking to him for, they talk about 10 minutes, right? And he gives me the phone back, and he said, "Hey man, are you calling any games anymore?" And I said, "The VBL season just ended." He's like, "Man, I need you to come over to the ABA with me." And so I went over to the ABA with him, and I started calling games for the South Bay Sharks and then
Okay.
the
Shout
High
out
Desert
to
State
South Bay
Union.
Sharks. Okay.
And then Kevin and I sat down and did a merger
Mm-hmm.
where I married parts of Elevated Entertainment into ABAPrime.net, which
Cool.
gave me action at live streaming for the
Okay.
ABA games, right, which are going to be coming up next season, as well as the ABA is moving into Canada as well. And so
Cool.
one of the team owners in Canada is a Muslim brother that I know, right? And so he wants to have me do live streaming for his games as well. So it opened up a lot of business opportunities when I got
Mm-hmm.
into the ABA. And so yeah, to directly answer the question without all of the context,
You're good.
I got out and went to work for the VBL, and then right after that went to the ABA, and all NBA All-Star weekend. NBA All-Star game is on a Sunday. Two
Okay.
days before then, on Friday,
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing play-by-play at the Mamba Academy for the ABA All-Star game.
Okay.
Right. And I distinctly remember telling my nieces on the way home, I said, "We're about to be celebrities."
Mm-hmm.
They said, "What?" I said, "Listen, I just did play-by-play at the Mamba Academy for the
Yep.
ABA All-Star game. We're about to be celebrities." That was on Friday night. On
Mm-hmm.
Sunday about noon is when I opened up the email from Ray Ritter from the Golden State Warriors, asking me would I like to come up and do a public address announcement for one night, you know. And I remember sitting there, I read that email like 4 or 5 times,
You're like,
just
is this
like
legit?
like
Like,
you
come
said,
on.
Marcus Compton's story, and then I broke down crying because I'm like,
That's amazing.
remember, I get out October the 16th, 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And by March the 8th, 2021, I get an email telling me that I'm about to go to a place that I had only dreamed about inside a prison, which is the NBA.
Insanity.
And it hit hard. It hit me emotionally, it
Mm-hmm.
hit me psychologically, it hit me physically, because I've been doing a lot of grinding and a lot of, handshaking and
Networking and work.
networking and mainly not allowing other people to influence my decision and thought
That's it.
process,
That's it right
you
there.
know, because I have people that work within the state system
Mm-hmm.
who call themselves counselors and stuff like that, who was telling me my dreams was unreal. That was
That's
telling me
not
that
a free counselor.
I needed to sign up for general relief, I needed to sign up for CalFresh, I needed to sign up for Medi-Cal, and
Worse.
that I was never going to make enough money to survive being a sports broadcaster. You're an ex-felon. Who's going to hire you? And I never, no matter what they did, I never let them get to me. Right? I just, hey, look. And so Elevated Entertainment, which you mentioned a minute ago, became the vehicle that
Mm-hmm.
Showtime Taylor sat in,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so the whole business around Elevated Entertainment, the business account, the JP Morgan Chase and everything is about pushing Aaron Showtime Taylor. And then it also opens up the door for music videos and music studios and
Absolutely.
stuff like that, and
Absolutely.
connecting community to community resources and hiring ex-felons and whatnot. And so I never ever let any of those counselors stop me
Mm-hmm.
from achieving my goal, no matter what they said, no matter what threat they came at me with. I never let them stop me because I knew I had my plan set. And once I seen it take off, I took my hands off the steering wheel and let whatever the higher power is take control. And all I had to do was maintain
Mm-hmm.
my sanity, maintain my thought process, keep my faith, right? Stay up in my room when I wasn't working,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Oh no. Yeah, he's frozen. It's all right. We'll send him a chat right now. The story is insane, you guys. I mean, if you are going through something of this nature and you are pushing, all right, we got him back. We got you back. I was just building you up a little bit. Gotta love technology. Oh my God, Showtime. I mean, I'm almost crying over here. I'm trying not to because it's just the two of us. But brother, I never got locked up, but I went through some stuff too. And I had those teachers, I had those counselors, I had those coaches. Oh, you're never going to be good enough, or you're never going to get that chance. And I'm almost 40, and I barely started it. I graduated in 2016 from radio and broadcasting school. And in the last 2 years, I've met the voice of the ducks, the voice of the angels. I've met you. I've networked to other people. Like you said, just don't let people break you down. The way that you just explained it hit me right here, man. I told you, I almost cried. Like me as the interviewer, that was awesome to hear. Me as the broadcaster, it touched me. It's like, hey, you, Ricky, don't quit, dude. Keep going. And that goes out for my buddy Gilbert A. Plus Asensio. He's trying to do the same thing. Or anybody's going after, it doesn't have to be broadcasting. It could be a doctor. It could be nursing. It could be anything.
Anything.
Don't let
I
no
don't care
break
what it
you.
is, man. Listen, I don't have no problem in telling anybody, respectfully and humbly, I am the best basketball broadcaster in the country that nobody really knows about. Now, there's some people in the business that I respect, right? I respect the way that they go about their business. I respect the fact that they've been in the business as long as they've had.
Mhm.
They're professionals, right? They're good at what they do, right? However, they don't have flavor.
Yeah.
They're network, right? And the networks want a certain
Don't bite
type of
them.
mold. They want
Don't.
a archetype. They want a stereotype, right?
Mhm.
I don't fit none of those. I don't care about none of them. All I care about is calling a good basketball game
Mhm.
and allowing myself to be in the improvisational nature,
Mhm.
getting to the spirit of the improvisational nature that the basketball players are playing on the court,
Mhm.
right? To me, and I haven't shared this with anybody, but I'm gonna share it with you. This is one of the reasons why I wanted to be on this show since the first time I heard about it. To
Wow.
talk to you,
Wow. Thank you. That
talk to
means a
this,
lot.
and to talk to this team if I could, but I wanted to be on All Sports Media because you guys have people that I watch play basketball on here and do interviews with them, and I get to learn more about them, right? And I took my show hard in the paint and patterned it part of after what you guys were doing because it gave me a template on how I could set up what I wanted to do. right? One of the things I do when it comes to play-by-play, I know that game back and forth, there's only so much that can happen in a 94 by 50 court, right? There's only so much can happen. Sometimes you'll see something that you've never seen before, but in most cases, you've seen it all before. So for me, the nature of basketball becomes a quintet in jazz. There's 5 different pieces playing, and they all play together, but then each one gets their own isolation. Each one gets their own individual breakdown. It's your turn to solo, right? And just like on the basketball court, you'll hear isolation, and they'll ISO that cat up. They'll move everybody to one side of the court, and it's one-on-one, right? So in that, because I'm looking at it through the same complex or simplex aspect of jazz, right? Then this is how I approach my play-by-play. I'm knowing what you're going to do before you do it, because I played this game before. So there's only so much that you can do. And right before you get ready to do it, if I'm not on a loudspeaker, then I could say it in a mic in a camera. And instead of saying it, I'll insert a joke. You know, so let's take, for instance, Steph Curry is out by the 3-point line, right? And the defender comes out and they spread everything out. When Curry, the first time he goes to cross him up, the first thing I'm gonna say, okay, Curry's about to shaking them up, waking them up. And while I'm saying that, he's doing his crossover. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, of course.
All the way to the rim, finger roll, ice. You know what I'm saying? This is how I'm looking at it. And so that's the secret. And then those one-liners come from Richard Pryor, George Carlin, Robin Williams, Eddie Murphy, legends. It's Fox. All of those one-liners that you shoot in, right, to keep the audience interested. And then they'd be like, what the hell did that dude just say? Right. They're watching the game. You know, and the reason I bring it up is because I was watching the highlights from a game about 2 weeks ago. This was maybe 3 days after I came out, about 3 weeks ago, right? A couple of days after I came out of Frisco in the Chase Center. And I'm listening to some guys, and they're discussing a personal conversation that they had that dealt with something that Charles Barkley said in the TNT studios. And it seemed like to me that they was trying to show that they knew the inside joke about what Charles was saying. While the game is going on and there's some action going on, and whoever was playing had just crossed the dude up at the free throw line and ran up, and I mean literally dunked, hit him with the whole groin in the face dunk, bam. And they missed it because they was running off at the mouth about something else. And I'm like, is this what it's come to? And so then after I come out of San Francisco, and I was on 95.7 the game up north. And I said the same thing I said to you. And I was on KNBR too, the sports radio station up there too. And I told both of them, respectfully and humbly, I'm the best play-by-play basketball announcer in the country. And I remember 2 days after that, I started hearing a whole bunch of announcers on YouTube and the highlights and on television here start to pick their game up. Because now there's somebody who just came out of prison who can do this on the same level as you. And I tell everybody, when they give me the headphone and put the mic in my mouth, somebody in the NBA is getting ready to lose their job, period.
Well, that's the attitude you got to take. I mean, even if it's not, like you said, not just basketball, anything in general, you get that opportunity to do whatever it is, broadcasting, you know, medical, you know, sports, you know, being a teacher, whatever it is. You have to be a sub for a year, be a freaking sub for a year, be the best damn sub that you can be. And you'll get recognized, maybe not by the school you're working at, but you'll get recognized by another school.
Somebody's going to hear you.
Someone's going to see you. Exactly. And that's why we're on our 44th show. And you know what? I'm not going to lie to you, Showtime. We don't have a bunch of followers, but I do have a lot of people on my TikTok. I have a lot of people on my Facebook, my Instagram. And I just put it out there, and they have friends, they have family. And who knows? And you know a lot of people, once this show goes out, who knows who's going to see it? You know, so you always got to get that 110%.
What's your TikTok page?
At Dubl, just at Dubl, Dubl. I'll put it right now in the chat.
Well, if somebody sees this, I'm Uncle Daddy Grandpa on TikTok.
There it is, you guys. Uncle Daddy TikTok. I definitely check him out. He's got some pretty cool videos too. But honestly, I will back you on exactly what you're saying, because I 1,000% agree. I'm the same way as you. I love exciting announcers. I can't stand those robot announcers that are just like, and Curry does this, and someone does this, and there's the shot, and there it is. You know, I like people who get into it. I like people that are excited. I like people that put their they're everything into it, you know? You never know who you're gonna get or how they're gonna come out about it, but it's someone you remember. You remember the Vin Scullys, you remember the Harry Careys, you remember the Chick Hearns, you know, you remember those guys. So I'm right there with you. So I think we froze again. No, there we go. You're moving. We're good. But I don't know if you heard that last part. I said you remember those people who come up with those nicknames and those cool catchphrases and the Vin Scullys, the Harry Careys, the Chick Hearns, and you never forget them. But there's
Johnny Modes.
exactly, exactly.
Those were Vince Scully definitely. He's a
That's my
like
goat right there.
icon, man. I didn't even really growing up. I didn't really like baseball because it seemed slow.
Mhm.
But we used to listen to Vince Scully all the time, and so when I would call the baseball games inside of prison,
Mhm.
right? I'd start channeling Vince Scully.
Mhm.
Not so much as because I didn't really have the baseball history and the
Yeah.
notes and stuff that he had. But what I did do was use the same tone, right? Use the same style of delivery, right? Even if it was just to talk about the weather and the geese flying in from
Of
the east
course.
over the San Francisco Bay to land in on the baseball field while the game is going on, and channel Vince Scully that way.
Mhm.
I used to channel John Madden,
I love John
you
Madden.
know,
Okay.
for the football games, right?
Mhm.
Even though it was flag football, we were still hitting hard out there, and the only person that didn't get hit was the person with carrying the football.
Of course.
But even and also with Chick Hearn, in the beginning, I was really relying heavily on imitating Chick Hearn as a basketball announcer.
Mhm.
And at Centinela, when I started the CBL and I was doing the 3 games a day, 5 days a week, I got away from trying to imitate Chick Hearn to create my own style that was based
And that's hard to do. That is hard
on
to
Chick
do.
Hearn, right? And
Mhm.
so the easiest way to describe it, especially if you're a hip hop fan, right? If you're a fan of hip hop, um, the way the rhyming style is taking place now is the same way we did it in the 80s.
Mhm.
You know, it was the wording wasn't as dense as it got in the late 80s, early 90s when you
Mhm.
had lyrical content, say somebody like Rakim or Gangstar or something like that,
Yeah.
right? Versus, if you listen to it, I said hip hop, a hip to the hip
Yeah.
hop, you don't stop. That same formula is what they use today, right? And the person I like to point out the most that I think is probably the best one who fortunately died was Pop Smoke,
Mhm.
right? He had the same foundation as the Sugar Hill Gang. It's the same thing. You're not using a whole bunch of words, but
Yeah.
you are getting the message out, right? Even though Pop Smoke was one particular style in the Sugar Hill Gang. And so what I did was, in the same sense, I took the foundational parts of Chick Hearn
Mhm.
and then started incorporating my own on top of it.
Hey.
So I came up
Mhm.
with my own euphemism.
Absolutely. Yeah. I agree. I'm the same way. Like when I
I
met
came up with my
Phil.
own,
Oh, go ahead.
one-liners and whatnot. And in the process, Showtime started to evolve.
Okay, and that's when your personality started to show out
I
and
can't
people
hear
got
you.
to see. All right, I'll start it up. Hang on.
I think you might be muted.
Hang on, unmute. Can you hear me now?
It's still open. Let me see this. Say something now.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay, let me turn my speakers up a little.
There it is. I
There.
got it.
Okay, it takes a little while on the phones. Okay, so we'll
Yeah,
talk.
so
Go ahead. Go ahead and finish off.
the style formulates, and I go from being, Black Chick Hearn and Baby Chick Hearn into Showtime,
Showtime.
you
Yeah.
know. And there's enough of Chick Hearn in there for people who remember Chick Hearn to hear it and say, man, that dude sounds like Chick Hearn.
But
And there's just enough for people who've never heard of Chick Hearn be like, that's Showtime. And I
exactly.
like that. I like that balance because it gives me an opportunity to attract
Mhm.
a Generation X audience born 1965 to
Mhm.
1981 who grew up and know about the Showtime Lakers and Chick Hearn.
Mhm.
And it also gives me enough credibility on the street for the millennial audience,
Of course.
right, to accept me for who I am now.
Mhm.
And so it's almost like a bridge between both groups.
Absolutely. It's really hard to do. Like I'm in media as well, and I did radio too, and it's the same thing. And you're like, I channel certain. I came out of pretty much contemporary music is the school I graduated from, and then I got hired at a rock station. So it's a completely different world. But you're like, okay, I'll take a little bit of this, put a little bit of this, and then put my own flavor. Sports, same thing. I'm friends with the Angels announcer and the Ducks announcer, Michael Rajo, Phil Hewitt, and Phil.
Ducks.
What was that?
I love the Ducks.
Dude, we're here. We gotta go to a game next year. I'll talk to Phil.
Both of your teams are my teams: the Anaheim
Dude,
Angels,
bro.
Anaheim Ducks, the
All right,
Kansas City Chiefs.
Showtime. When this mess is over, you come to a game. I'm gonna take care of you. Okay? I know every
Right.
youngster in the entire stadium. I got you. But no, Phil and we're really good friends here.
This will be the first one.
What?
I've never been to a hockey game, so this will be the first one.
All right, I'll talk to Phil. I'll see what we can do.
All right.
Okay. So before I want to talk a little bit about your your Warrior debut. You said you live in the dream. You're crying. You sit in that chair. You throw on those headphones. What was going through your mind besides, oh my God, this is happening?
So remember, I was a public address announcer.
Yes.
So I didn't have the headphones.
Oh, you have the
It was
headphones,
more-
right? Just the mic. That's right. That's right.
I had the public address announcer, Matt Pittman, was sitting to my right.
Okay, I did see that. Okay.
At the Wizards game on Friday,
Okay.
you know, that Friday, but the day before, I'm sitting there watching what he's doing, and I'm paying attention.
Okay.
And hey man, it's hard being a public address announcer. I'm gonna tell you that now, because the stuff that he was doing, you have to already have practice and know how to do.
Mhm.
So while he's, when a foul is committed, he'll, Draymond Green,
Mhm.
first personal, third team foul.
You got to know.
Right.
Yeah.
But while he's doing that, he's writing down the notes while he's talking.
Mhm.
So
Yep.
he has a written note, and then next to him they have the computer where that guy's over there inputting information.
Yeah.
Right. And so the referees actually went to the computer one time and it was wrong, and Matt had the right ones. He had the right numbers for him to
Good.
make the corrections. And so I'm looking at him, and I'm a little bit intimidated because I know the next night I'm supposed to do this, right? But let me tell you something, man. Matt Pittman is an OG, man. He's a real live dude. And when I went in there, I had my little notebook and stuff, and you could see it on the Maria Taylor piece in ESPN when I'm walking, and I got the little yellow notebook in my hand, right? I got all the paperwork that he gave me, and I walked in and caught him about an hour before the game. I said, man, I can't do this like that. I said, I did a whole bunch of studying, but I'm not going to be Showtime Taylor with all of this, man. I'm just like, I studied for a test. And he said, what you want to do? I said, look, I noticed last night that you was writing stats on the paper and stuff like that. He said, yeah. I said, look, let's do this. Let me just do what I need to do as on the mic. And then if somebody commits the foul, he said, I got you. I'll just put some numbers down below the thing. You can see it. And so when the foul happened, it was like John Wall, first personal, third team foul, right? He hit me to make sure, nudged me to make sure I had a timeout or something, that I called the score off on the scoreboard up there and how much time was left, and then wing out the Showtime part after that.
It is Showtime, yeah.
Right. So it was a nice mixture. And him, and I forget the other guy to my left, right? But both of those guys and the whole Warrior, that whole section over there where the stats and stuff kept, man, that was all boss right there, man. They helped me out. They advised me. If I was slipping, they pointed something out and showed it to me, man. I couldn't have done what I've done without them.
Yeah, you gotta be humble in this business. It's very hard. So shout out to the Warriors media team. You guys are awesome. And with that said, they let you do the Steph Curry post-game interview. What was that like?
So he came over to me and thanked me, and then we had some words during the hug.
Okay.
And essentially what I was telling him was, without going into too much detail, try to take a trip to San Quentin State Prison because you got some fans over there too.
Mm-hmm.
And we're all proud of what you do in the community as well.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But it would be nice if you can get a chance to get over there. Mm-hmm. And so for me at the moment, it was over with, right? I'm, getting my stuff together.
Yeah.
And Park and I can't remember. He's gonna beat me up too when he sings. I'm talking
so many people in the business.
Thank you. And then I see Raymond point Curry back to me.
Okay. And
so when he come back over, I'm shaking his hand, and I forget what I was saying, but he said, "No, this ain't over. I need you to come over here and do this post-game interview with me."
Oh my God.
And I'm like, okay, And I see the little crowd. I see Kurt and Kent Lake up over there with their mask on and stuff like that. And I see the security guys. You know what I'm saying? I see them all sitting on the other side, so I don't know exactly where we're going. And I could hear Fitz and the other guy coming out of the little speaker box. And he said, get a mic to Showtime Taylor, you know. And I'm sitting there stunned.
Of
Right?
course.
I mean, you know, I'm standing next to a two-time MVP, a
World
champion,
champion.
NBA champion. You know, he's not that much taller than me. You know, I think in my younger days I might have been able to guard him.
Oh, he's calling you out, Steph. There it is.
He's
We're
not that much
gonna
taller
attack
than me.
him.
And then I remember the voice asking me, you know, uh, what did it feel like right there? And the only word I could come up with was surreal.
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
Not unbelievable, not any of the other ones, surreal. And then he asked me something else. And I have to back up and tell you why I had to pause. Because the night before I left here to go to the San Francisco, which was April the 7th, I woke up 3 times in the middle of the night crying,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because I took every basketball player that I'd ever called play by play for inside a CDCR and stuffed them in my heart,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then I took everybody that's still locked up who I know want to say that they're sorry to the people that they harmed, put them up in here.
Mm-hmm.
And then I took the victims and survivors, put them up in here, right? And then I put my family.
Right there. Mm-hmm. It's all right. Go ahead. This is deep, man. I mean, this goes out to anybody who's watching this. You guys see how emotional this is, how real this is. This guy went through hell and back to get to where he is. He got to live his dream. That means don't ever, ever freaking give up, no matter how many times you're getting knocked down. Get back up. You never know where God's leading you. You never know what mountains you're going to have to climb, what hurdles you're going to have to jump. But this guy over here, I'm going to point with this finger. This guy over here is an example, an inspiration of what can be. So Showtime,
And
let it out, brother. It's all right, man.
so
You're inspiration, dude. I mean that from my heart.
when he the guy, I forget his name, Fitz or whatever his name is, he wanted to talk about he had something and said it was like a Hollywood, and that's when I told him, no,
It's real. It's real.
not that. It's working hard to change who I was before I came in,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and to earn the opportunity. When I got released from prison, I had Kent Lakup's email. Kent Lakup had already told me 2 years before that I could get a tryout with the Santa Cruz Warriors, the G League team, when I got
Whoa.
released, right? He told me that during the filming of Cue Ball.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had an opportunity to parole in Oakland and go take that opportunity. And I chose not to. And when I wrote him the email, I told him in the email, I said, man, I want to build a resume before I come up there. I don't want to just go
Absolutely.
straight to you,
Absolutely.
right? I want to build a resume and show that I'm worthy of this. And so to get out and go through the VBL.
But you know what, Showtime? That's the best thing that could have ever happened to you. You are the voice of the VBL. You're a legend to every player out there. Everybody loves the calls that you have. Not even just calls, the mentality that you bring, that positive vibe, but that, hey, I've seen it, I've lived it. I know what hard work and determination is. And I see you guys doing that on the court. You know, you got ballers out there that want to be in the NBA, that want to be in the ABA, that want to play overseas, but they just haven't got that break yet. And here you are building them up like they're superstars. We got Drewski, we got we got Flash, Percy, we got so many bone collectors, so many humongous names out there that people don't know about. And don't even get me started on the girls. The girls are ridiculous. I'm doing the P4E games on Thursdays right now, and they go balls out, they go all out. And it's like we said, you never know who's watching. You never know who.
I started noticing like Dr. Sharon and
Oh, I love the doc. That's my girl right there.
Black Italian and my girl built Philly tough, Baby V, Victoria Mazzio, and Miss Tatted Buckets and KK Gets Buckets, B to PG, and Coach Cam. I started noticing, not the first at Dotweiler, nobody knew me.
Yeah.
Then the first tape came out, the first video came out, and then at Long Beach they started seeing me. You know, some of them started recognizing me, and by the time we made it to Watts for that last game,
must have been
all of them knew me. All the players knew me at that point, and they're like, you know, when I come through, they's like, "What's up, Showtime?" You know, and I'm gonna give you an example.
Go for it.
Talking about Lady Vicious, Baby V.
Okay, Baby V, we got her.
Yeah. Victoria Mazio.
Mm-hmm.
I watch her work out. I watch her clips on Instagram, right? This is a woman who puts her all into preparing before the game starts. Not that the rest of them aren't. I'm pretty sure all of them do, but they don't have videos for me to look at, just like I look at Drewski's workout videos. And I could see the dedication to the physical part of the game in the way that they mentally approach working out for the game, right? And so it shows up on the court in both of them just as two examples. And those are like the examples that I'm pointing out to what I did when I decided not to go take that opportunity to go to the Santa Cruz Warriors and to sit down and say, you know what, I'm gonna start my way from the bottom and I'm gonna work my way up.
Absolutely.
You know, and the reason, like you said, that I make them feel like make those players in the ABA and the VBL feel like they're stars, because to me they are. You know, it doesn't matter. I can only call play-by-play based on the quality of the play that's taking place on the court. And I keep telling people, if you think I sound good, imagine the people that I'm calling the game for.
Absolutely.
You know, and it was totally new. Now, when I left, before I left to go to prison, you know, they had gyms and courts where girls could come in and get their run in, you know, but they had to be hella good. You know, Cynthia Cooper come through one of the spots downtown at one of the boys' gyms, and she used to play at night, and you just couldn't guard her. She was going to cross you up. She would elbow you if necessary. She would light you up, right? And then when I come out 26 years later into the BBL, they even have it set up to where you have to have a woman out there on the court. And then I'm thinking to myself, and you know, granted, again, I've been gone 26 years and I hadn't seen this. So I'm thinking to myself when I hear it, I'm like, damn, this ain't gonna work out good at all. And you know, I was wrong. I was listening.
It's awesome. I love it.
I was wrong.
I
was idiot. I was single-minded. I was a black Archie Bunker for even thinking that way, because when I saw the quality of play, from the girls on the court, I'm like, man, they balling out here. I'm like, oh, and then I'm doing the play-by-play into the show's camera. So the thoughts is going through. I can't even voice the thoughts in my head, and I'm saying to myself, you a nitwit, Showtime. I didn't see this coming. I didn't see Miss Tatted Buckets coming. I didn't see Dr. Sharin. I didn't see none of them coming. Right? Look, Baby V took a charge from a 6'4", 240-pound black man on the court, and didn't get the charge call, and popped right up and said, I was supposed to get a call. And I'm sitting there.
That sounds like her. That sounds like her.
That's not, listen, model good looks and all of that, but took a charge from a 6'4", 240-pound black man at full brain.
Yep. She's a beast, man. Always has been.
Jumped up and dusted it off and said, I should have got a foul. That was a foul. And then they heard me say it. When the tape came out, I said, that was a foul. I was a charge. I don't care.
Oh my God. These girls are amazing. When I got to interview them, I'm just like, the stories that they told me, I'm just like, it's insane. And then Black Italian played pregnant. I was like, what? Like, nobody knew. Nobody knew.
I didn't know. When I interviewed her, she was pregnant.
Yeah, that's the game where she went one-on-one with Doc, I think, on the ice girl. That game was insane.
Right.
Oh my
God. They called it. I told the Doc, right, because I'm gonna try to get an interview with her, right? But the way they set it up, they isolated her and the Doc, right? Like it was a mismatch. And Doc did what she was supposed to do. She forced a bad shot.
Yeah.
All 3 times that they isolated her, she forced a bad shot. That's what you're supposed to do. You know, and that's when my respect level went up high, not for them individually, but for women in general coming out and playing in the game with me.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And again, I ask for people to be patient with me all the time, because I told them, listen, I just did 26 years living with Neanderthals, and I was a Neanderthal myself, in a sense, as far as our thinking was, right? And so a lot of the things that I was thinking was backwards until I came out here and saw different.
Yeah.
You know, and they definitely proved that they deserve to be on the court. And in some cases, some of the dudes need to step off the court so they could be on there. Straight up.
I agree. I know, like I feel the same way you do. Like when I went into our first female interview, T Loudermill, the dog of the group, Lady T. You know, the stories they told. I played overseas for this amount of years. You know, people put us down, people looked down on us, and then we won championships. Or you know, or I got recognized by another team. You know, we have people who knew WNBA superstars. You know, or were friends with NBA superstars. But they never got their shot. You know, and the stories that these people have gone through, or being girls in general, like you said, getting discriminated against just for being girls, and they're bad freaking ass, man. They're awesome, and you've got to call those games. So I mean, I'm never gonna forget that game, the Long Beach when P3 won the Long Beach game, the tournament. I will never ever forget that game. It was absolutely insane. Again, you guys are listening to Double Dribble episode 4, All Sports Media Team presents, you know, with myself, Double R, Rick Rodriguez, and the one, the only voice of the BBL, Aaron Showtime Taylor. Showtime, you're so good for a little bit, couple more, or you good? We got to go about 5 more questions. Sweet. I'm going to go to work.
You got me to the bottom of the hour.
Yeah, I'm the one that has to go to work, so it's all good, man. All right, cool. So we've been super serious, and first off, thank you. I mean that from me personally. Thank you. You touch me in the heart as a broadcaster, as a man, and as a human being. And I know we've said this at the beginning of the show, Aaron. We said you're going to change someone's life. I guarantee you what you have talked about just to this point is going to either change or save somebody's life. So thank you so much for that. Okay, let's get off the serious train for a little bit. Let's have a little fun. Okay, we like to do 5 random questions, little silly fun questions we've done with everybody. The first one, not as silly. It could be a parental figure, it could be someone you met in jail, it could be an NBA superstar. Who was, I think I know the answer, but I could be wrong. Who was Showtime Taylor's main motivation to do what he does now?
Chick Hearn.
Chick Hearn, exactly.
Yeah, Francis Chick Hearn.
Did you have any particular reason? I know you talked a little bit about it at the beginning, but is there anything that just bam stood out and hit you in the face?
Yeah, well, growing up, the NBA was on CBS back then, and we would turn the volume down on the television and turn the volume up on the simulcast radio.
I did the same with Dodger games.
Right, and I'm not a Laker hater. Right, I wasn't ever a big fan of the Lakers, but I'm definitely not a Laker hater. I was a Clipper fan growing up, right? Just because they were underdogs, right? Just like with the Kansas City Chiefs. Been a Kansas City Chiefs fan since I was 4. I've been a Clipper fan since I was about 9 or 10.
Okay.
Right. But everybody around me, my whole family, all my friends, everybody's Laker fans. So, and because I'm in LA, so you know, you're gonna listen to Chick Hearn. And I remember listening to him, and the game just had a whole nother flavor.
Yeah.
A whole nother flavor. And when the time came, that's who I wanted to imitate. And you know, that's what helped drove me to get to where I'm at now.
And you couldn't have picked a better idol, man. I mean, besides God himself, to look up to someone like Chick, that he's one of the GOATs. My 3 GOATs, my personal 3 GOATs are Chick, Vince Scully, they're like right there, and then Harry Carey's on the side, you know. Just there's something about them, especially Vince Scully. The guy could tell you about, you know, Kirk Gibson's 2nd grade teacher's dog, you know, and you're just like, where did that come from? But then Gibson hits a home run and he's back in baseball mode just like that, you know? And he's amazing, absolutely amazing. And that's how I feel when you come out with your nicknames, you know? Nothing? You can't hear me. Oh, come on, you're killing me. I hear you now. Okay, hang on 1 second. God love technology.
Okay, yeah, I'm all on.
I'm telling you, Showtime, I think it's the phone. The phones they're the ones that do that. We're just about done, so I promise I won't cut out as much. I was just saying that Vin could tell you about Kirk Gibson's 2nd grade teacher's dog and then just jump right back into baseball mode, you know? And I respected the hell out of him for that. And the same thing with you. When I hear you come up with these insanely off of the wall nicknames, but I freaking love every single one of them. You guys got to go on VBL on YouTube and just see what this guy comes up with. They're freaking genius, and the players love them. So you just keep them coming, and like I love it. I think it's absolutely insane in a cool way.
Drewski, when he told me his name was Drewski, I'm watching him play, right? And then after the Long Beach game, I went to him and said, "Hey, I got a new nickname for you," right? He said, "What is it?" I said, "I'm calling you the closer from this point
That's
forward."
right. I remember.
The closer. He said, "Yeah, I like that." I said, "Yeah." So that's there's some names, there's some nicknames that I gave guys in prison. I told one that the hardest nickname I've ever come up with, right? I gave it to a guy. His name is Oris Pep Williams. When I met Pep, he was 51 years old, and he was still the best player at San Quentin at 51.
Wow. Okay.
He's shooting from half court easily at 51, 52, all the way up to he's 56 years old, right? But he had this throwback George Gervin, World Beat Free, Downtown Freddie Brown, Dr. J style game, right? Yeah. He's left-handed, he's a southpaw, right? And every time he made a move to the basket, right, everything was all smooth, just like how the ABA players was, right? So one day, the game is going, and I'm calling play-by-play at the scores table, right? And I said, Pep goes up with a move, do, right? And everybody was like, "What is that?" I said, "He's the Human theme song from this point forward, right?" The guitar riff, right? And so within 3 weeks of me doing that, right, when I'm doing play-by-play again and Pep goes to make a move, I'm literally, the whole yard is going do.
Yes. See, and that's the thing, people remember. They remember things like that. Whether it's a walk-up song or something the announcer says for you to say, or they just imitate you, and that will never die. And it's.
I hurt Pep's heart though when I told him about 2 weeks ago. I said, "Look, man, if I get in the NBA, there's a player in the NBA right now that I'm going to give your name to." And he was, "Man, I said, "Listen." He said, "Well, if you're going to give me my name, just tell him where it came from," right? Because he didn't want to give it up. Now there's another player. He's out of Oakland. He passed now. He got unfortunately he was shot at a gas station in a shootout. But anybody from the Bay Area that knows the name Mike Franklin is going to know who I'm talking about. Marcus Thompson of The Athletic is working on a book about Mike's life. And I coached Mike at San Quentin in the Intramural League, and he played for the San Quentin Warriors. And I gave him one of the names that I hold up high in my nickname book. And his name was Mike the Option Franklin.
Option, okay.
Option. And this dude, either way, defense, offense, no matter where the shot is at, inside, outside, any zone I wanted to run, he helped me teach the zone to the players on the team, right? Whether I was with 2-3, 3-2, 1-3-1, a triangle 2, a boxing 1, it didn't matter. A motion zone. This dude had it up here, and he had the game, and so I nicknamed him the Option, right? And so I got some nicknames like that, that I've given to people, and they like them. They like, yeah, that's unique. Strictly.
Yeah, and that's awesome. You can hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, and that's awesome. You get places like, I know it's totally off the wall, but like WWE, they hear a catchphrase, it turns into a T-shirt. Your stuff could turn into merch. You can get money off of this. And I know that's not what you're after, but it's the memory. People will remember. Oh, that's the Option. That's the closer. That's Big Dog. Whatever it is, Black Italian. I knew her as Alicia. I didn't know who Black Italian was until I heard you, and I was like, dude, that's so freaking cool.
She told me that was her. She told me that.
Oh, okay. The first time I heard was when you said it. Okay.
It's only it might be 8 or 9 people in the VBL that I actually gave a nickname to.
Okay.
But the majority of them, they told me that's what their nicknames were. And for me, it's nothing for me to incorporate your nickname into the game while it's going. I love that, because the more unique your nickname is, the more better it sounds when I'm getting all of this out of my mouth while you're playing. Exactly. There's a guy named John Wyndham from Sacramento. This dude was a 3-star athlete. He played 3 sports, right? And by the time I met him at San Quentin, he's playing baseball, football, and basketball.
Okay.
And so I nicknamed him the man with the 24th chromosome.
I like that. I like that. I like that.
Now imagine me calling basketball. Ball comes down off the backboard. It goes up to the man with the 24th chromosome from half court with the left. The whole name is getting in. The man with the 24th chromosome. Not that, you see what I'm saying? And it's fun for me because when people hear it, they like, how the hell did he get all that out?
Right? It's a skill. People think that as announcers, it's literally, oh, they're just saying the names of the people. Hell no. There's so much more that goes into it, but it's so damn fun. And that's why we do it. And you're the biggest freaking inspiration right now to that. Okay, I want to jump into the last couple things. George, my partner George Ochola would kill me. He's the one that always films the BBL for All Sports Media team, and he walks around the camera. He does our YouTube as well. He usually asks our guests, "What is your favorite basketball movie and why?"
My favorite basketball movie. I haven't watched a lot of them, right? But the one I think I like the best is Love and Basketball.
Okay. Any particular reason?
Well, again, it's dealing with I'm all about women empowerment.
Yeah,
and they show basketball from a woman's perspective. Plus, Sanaa Lathan is, to me, like one of the most beautiful women in the world.
Well, that's a plus.
And so, but it showed a dynamic. Plus, it's filmed right here in my neighborhood. That's Baldwin Park right next door. I mean, Baldwin Hills right next to where I'm at, Crenshaw High School. You know, and it just showed it had subplots and an intricate level in the storytelling, right, to tell a basketball story, you know. And I like at the end how Omar Epps knew he was going to beat her in the game. You know, he wanted to play she said play one-on-one or whatever, right? And he couldn't get back in the game, but he supported her. You know, they had a child together at the end, you know, we call that in the 33rd. And she's playing in the WNBA, and he's a husband who's supporting his wife while they have a child. And I just kind of like that storyline, you know, and it is revolving around basketball. And so yeah, that'll probably be the one for me. I wish you would ask me about football because I would have told you.
You can throw that out there. Go for it. What's your favorite football movie?
Sunday.
Oh, love it.
Damn.
Love it.
And damn, Any Given Sunday, man. That's probably one of the most realist football movies I've ever seen, because I used to coach football as well, right? On several levels, even inside of prison. And those conversations, those motivational conversations that they had in the locker room with that 1 inch. I don't care what you do, you're willing to get your knuckles bruised. That speech, I gave something similar to that when my basketball team lost the finals, right? Mike Frank was on my team, and we lost 3-1 in the finals. And I remember, man, it was the first time I've ever gotten to the finals in prison as a coach. And I'm sitting there looking at these 10 guys, man, who just lost this final game, and we was favored to win. And I had to go in that huddle and talk to them and tell them something to get them to walk away and still have some dignity.
Head up, yeah.
But inside, I was crying, and I didn't even make it up to my cell before I went around by the gym where nobody could see me, and I broke down crying because we lost. But I had to talk to them 10 men and give them something to walk away with. So yeah, Any Given Sunday, just on the speeches alone, the motivational speeches, but all of the side stories with the shark and Lawrence Taylor said, man, just give me the shot, man. I'm trying to get my $1 million bonus. All of that.
Crazy. And those speeches, they're memorable. We have many coaches that have had memorable speeches, so it's crazy that they'll stand out. I'm very interested to see what your answer would be for this one. You're handed a blank check to be an announcer, play-by-play, PA, whatever it is you want to do, for any WNBA, NBA, or overseas team right now. Where does Showtime Taylor go and why?
A blank check?
You can go to any league, any team, and you're the new voice. Right now, you're the new voice.
Well, right this second, I would go to the LA Sparks.
I love the Sparks. Okay, and well, any particular reason?
So I get to see a lot of their clips on Instagram, and I like the flavor. I like the energy.
Okay.
I would like to lend my voice and have a new voice to that league. That may help spark more interest,
Absolutely.
right?
No,
My story going along with the WNBA is like, man, they just hired this dude that did 26 years. Oh yeah, we heard about that guy, right?
make it
And so
happen.
that I think that would automatically bring a lot more attention to the Sparks.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, I like the team. I like the flavor. I like the way that their camaraderie and stuff like that, right? And yeah, I would go to the WNBA to the LA Sparks first, even though I publicly said I would love to go one of the 4 NBA teams in the state. But right now, my heart is saying go to the Sparks.
That'd be awesome.
And that's what I would go to.
At Los Angeles Sparks, you just heard that. Let's make this happen. Let's get it done. Okay. Here's another one that I like to ask. Since you're not a player, you were a player, you're not a player anymore. I'm gonna have you do either or. We call it the Fab Five. Deceased, alive, doesn't matter. Who are your Fab Five favorite or bet? Well, who would Showtime Taylor pick for a Fab Five players? Maybe Fab Five announcers all time. It could be any position. It could be any era. It doesn't matter.
That in basketball?
Basketball, yeah. But
okay.
Announcers, you can do any sport. Announcers, you can do any sport.
This is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna make it even more interesting for you.
Okay, go for it.
I'm gonna pick a Fab Five, right? But they're gonna be all white players.
Oh, this should be good. Go for it. Go for it. I want to hear this.
So my point guard is gonna be Jason Williams, white chocolate.
The white chocolate, that's right. Okay.
I'm gonna move for my shooting guard. I'm gonna pick up John Paxson.
Okay. I see you.
I'm gonna move him from point guard to shooting guard.
Okay.
Right. At small forward, Larry Legend.
Okay, Larry Bird.
Right. At power forward, I'm gonna put Tom Chambers.
Okay.
Right. And at center, I'm gonna pick Big Red. Okay. Bill Walton.
Bill Walton, yes, sir.
Right.
I love it.
Wait, hold on. Watch this. As backup point guard, I'm gonna have Mr. Small Shorts from Utah Jazz, right? Okay. John Stockton, that's awesome. Right? And as another backup player, just to make sure that I'm not slipping, I'm gonna bring in Peja Stojakovic.
Oh, I love Peja. Okay, I think Peja is way underrated, but yeah. Okay.
Right. And so my announcers, obviously, is Chick Hearn.
Okay, Hearn.
My second announcer is going to be the guy that just retired from hockey. Doc, I forget his last name.
Bob Murray, the Kings?
No. The one that did the national voice for NBC. His name is Doc something or other.
I think I know who you're talking about. I know
Doc Emerson or something like that. I forget his last name, but he's the voice. He was the voice of hockey.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And then how many
you can do if you want to do 5, do 5. If not, do 3.
Yeah. 3 then I would go. So I picked Chick. I picked Doc. From the NFL. See, it's kind of tough, man. There's some really good ones in the NFL. Yeah. And John Madden was a color commentator, so he wasn't an announcer. And so my choices really come down to Jim Nantz and Pat Summerall, right? Oof. And so I'm gonna go with Nantz. I'm gonna go with the new school. I'm gonna set Pat to the side for a minute.
Okay.
Then another football announcer, the old voice of USC.
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
Right. Damn, what's his name? It just shot out of my head. He's the one who said they made the commercial body back in the day. He said, I've been calling football games since before your daddy met your mom. Right. And number 5, definitely Vin Scully.
Yes, the GOAT.
Definitely Vin Scully.
Yeah, he, like I said, that he could talk about anything. He could read you the phone. They always just say Vin Scully could read you the phone book and you'd still be excited.
There's one other basketball player I have to add in too.
Go for it.
Petrovic.
Which one?
Petrovic, Drazen Petrovic.
Okay.
Petro.
Okay.
Yeah. I would take that 8. I would take those 8 players and go anywhere in the world.
There you go. I love it. I love that mix. I love different mixes. Okay. Let's see. We got Fab 5, favorite movie. Okay. And then we're just about done, by the way. So again, thank you so freaking much. You've taken me on an emotional roller coaster, Showtime. I've had moments where I've laughed. I've had moments where I've almost cried. I've had moments where my stomach has just been churning because I'm just like, I can't believe this happened. This is so cool. Um, I have two questions. I have my one last question and I have my closer question. My
Okay.
last question is, you've been in prison, you played before you went into prison, you've done the VBL, you've done the ABA, you did the freaking the former champion Golden State Warriors. What was your favorite all-time basketball moment?
Hmm.
I know it's so much, right?
Um, I guess my favorite moment was well, it's one of them, and so Bob Myers and myself and Eric Reed, Lewis Murphy, Robbie Gold were on a sports and social justice forum
Okay.
at San Quentin State Prison
Okay.
at the end of 2017,
Okay.
and it might have been at the end of 2018, and I think that was my favorite moment because I got to see Bob Myers in a totally new light. You know, I called play by play for him all of those years. You
Mm-hmm.
know, we had light conversation, you know, before and after the game.
Mm-hmm.
But at the Sports and Social Justice Forum, I got to see him in a new light where he, you know, opened up and
Mm-hmm.
showed more of who he was or how he evolved as a person versus a basketball player, you know. And so to pick one basketball moment is kind of tough, but that one kind of stands out because I got to see Bob Myers and I could say that, you know, there was a foundational setting to
Mm-hmm.
become friends later on. Right now we're like associates. You know,
Mm-hmm.
he sent me an email when Wiseman injured himself in the game, he
Mm-hmm.
had to leave. And he sent me an email. He was like, "Man, I'm sorry I missed you, man. You know, I've been waiting to catch up to you, right? But I had to go take care of business."
Yeah.
Right. And so I understand that. But seeing him in that particular setting was kind of huge for me because even as we was going into the thing, I said, "Here go my future boss right here, right?"
Yeah.
People were standing there with us, right? And I said, "Yeah, this is my future boss right here."
There you go. That's, you can't be much more respect than that. So that's awesome. All right, Showtime. I've been waiting to ask you this one to the end on purpose because I know this one is going to get someone in the heartstrings. This one is going to change the life of somebody. What advice, after everything that you've been through, from living in hard areas to being in prison to changing the lives in the prisons that you did to building up the people in the VBL, including yourself, being in the ABA, doing the Golden State Warriors games, achieving your dream for the most part, what advice would you give to anybody who is incarcerated, any age, that is incarcerated and will be getting a second chance to chase their dream? What advice do you have for them?
Proper preparation prevents piss poor performance.
Drop the mic. That's ridiculous. Drop the mic.
You have to prepare for everything.
Mm-hmm.
Don't wait until the night before you going home to try to come up with a plan. When you know, if you're somebody in there who just happens to see this, and I'm going to make some calls to see if we can get this put on the institutional channel and CDC
That'd be
on,
awesome. I'd be honored.
right? Um, you can't wait to prepare. You have to start preparing the day after you get incarcerated to go home. You know, I prepared for the next Warrior game an hour after the last Warrior
Mm-hmm.
game ended inside the prison,
Mm-hmm.
right? I may not have moved on it, but I started thinking about what I wanted the next game to look like. And
Mm-hmm.
then when it came time that I knew I was going to go to the parole board, I started planning and taking the elements that I had in my head and putting it down on paper
Mm-hmm.
because I knew what I wanted to do and I had to figure out a way how to get it done, right? And so if you're watching this, if you hear about this, you start planning for your release at least a year ahead of time and you write it down on paper so you can see it. And if all you have is 2 lines,
Mm-hmm.
that's not enough planning.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you have to start looking at this and going into the intricate details of this and look at your post parole like the way a watch is put together.
Mm-hmm.
Each piece moves a certain way for a certain reason, and all of them have to work together to keep time, right? And so you have to look at how you're planning for your parole and then adapt that to what parole is going to have for you. Because even in this transitional home, and I still have to talk to counselors, and I have to talk to a psychiatrist, and I have to deal with a stop advocate, right? Okay, cool. But they're not stopping me from doing what I have to do because I had a plan. And so I just incorporated them into the plan. So if you don't plan, you will fail.
Absolutely.
There is no doubt about it. Everybody plans. I don't care what sports, they have a plan that they're going to implement. If you look at the NFL, you listen to them, they'll tell you, yeah, the first 15 plays are scripted. That's because they sat down and planned that out. If it's basketball, they're setting up planning on how many minutes each player is going to play, and they manage those minutes. If you go into a business, they have weekly meetings so people know what the goal is of the company and what your personal responsibility is, because they're planning to succeed. And that's how you're supposed to look at your life post-parole. You plan to succeed, but you have to plan so you can succeed.
Wow. Like I said, drop the mic. We have to end on that, because that is going to be, that just changed, I don't know how many lives, once they see this. It could be anybody. It could be when someone goes to visit their incarcerated brother. Look what I just saw, on YouTube, and you should hear this, like, you tugged on my heartstrings. I don't know how many times today. Like, I don't have enough fingers to count the amount of times that my heart has gone like that. I've questioned my path going forward. And then when you said what you said, I'm just like, okay, I just got to keep pushing. I don't know what's around the corner. I'm going to the UDL, like, that's where it starts. You never know who's going to see you. You never know who you're going to meet. You met someone at the freaking getting a t-shirt done. You never know who you're going to run into. You never know what's going to happen. So one last time, your All Sports Media team, Dubl Rick Rodriguez, you're listening to Drbl episode 44, from behind bars to behind the mic, with the one, the only voice of the VBL, Aaron Showtime Taylor. Thank you so much for sharing your story, man. I'm inspired. There's no other word I can think of right now except for inspired and thankful that I got to know you. I met you at the VBL before, but I got to know you, the person, the announcer, the man. So thank you so much for it. And I can't wait for people to see this. And I can't wait for you to come join us on another show. And you're always welcome back, my brother.
I just want you to know, even when I reached out, right? The Kelly Clarkson show, ESPN, this show, I don't put one on a pedestal over the other. One just has more exposure than the other. And so me coming here is just as much as an honor as me appearing on Kelly Clarkson's show or talking to Maria Taylor, or even some of the other shows I've done with Ferran Dozier. To me, it's given me the ability to talk to people and share who I am and share my story. But they're all media to me. I don't hold one on a pedestal over the other. Just one has more exposure than the other. So anytime you want me here, you know what I'm saying, you can call me up. But remember, I asked to come on here on this one.
Absolutely. You the man, bro. You the man. We got you, and I still owe you a hockey game, and I'm gonna do my damn best to make that happen.
I'm gonna hold you to that one. I'm holding you to that hockey game.
If I can't get Phil to do it, I will buy us tickets, and I'll bring the crew and we'll go. It'll be awesome.
All right.
So with that said, everybody who's listening, sports freaks out there, one last time, Drbl episode 44, from behind bars to behind the mic. And all I'm going to say now, chase your dreams, because God always has second chances. Take that second chance. We're out of here. Peace out.